Hello, graphic novel literature students. Welcome to the video for week 9, day 1. This video is designed for those students who are absent from our live Zoom class. As a reminder, everything you say, do, or type is recorded, so please keep it school appropriate. And as always, there is no saving, downloading, or taking pictures of our class ever. If you look at today's agenda, we use time to select a scene from the end of your selected text and analyze it. I will demonstrate what that looks like using Watchmen. Then you did your scene selection check-in via chat with me during class. If you're watching this video because you were absent, you could always just do that through email. And then there was time to draft your final common task, the graphic novel analysis essay. So to get yourselves set up, I would suggest you open your selected text in one tab or window and have your analysis, common task, discussion, and personal notes open in another window just to make things easier. Okay, so these have already been completed. We had our first discussion and then we had our second discussion, and you've filled those in. If those are not completed, please go back to the assignment on the Canvas page, review the page numbers and the questions, and complete them so that writing your essay will be easier. All of the questions from our discussions are listed on the assignment page, right? So these were depending on your text, right? These are the questions for the first one. Then there was discussion 2. And then today we're going to talk about discussion 3. Okay, so let's talk about discussion 3, right? About how to complete that portion. Please just ignore this part where it says copy and paste an empty chart. We will not be using that for this situation this year. So this is the section where you're going to select your own scene and kind of write up your own analysis. So you would fill in on the left-hand side, what page or page numbers did you use, and then your notes to yourselves. The approach that I would suggest to you would be to do these 4 things. First, find one scene, right, 1 to 2 pages towards the end of your selected text that you know is meant to convey a message to your reader. Second, write out what that message is and make it as clear as possible, right? What does the author want us to know? What does the author want us to learn? What does the author want us to understand? Third, look over your scene for the use of devices that we discussed in our previous discussions or ones that appear on your course terms vocab list. I gave you a quick list of those things here in the directions, right? Like you could talk about color, transitions, masking, closure, iconography, etc. But you can use anything that you find in there, right? Things from your terms list, things from a normal English analysis, right? If you notice, hey, there's a metaphor, hey, there's symbolism, you can talk about those as well. And then lastly, you would write a clear statement explaining how the author's use of those devices helps him or her convey his or her message to the reader. Completing this chart, this last chart here, and turning it in counts as our third discussion. The easiest way to do this is to actually just go back to Canvas right here where those questions are, right? And to copy and paste them into the right-hand side and then answer them right next to them, right? So let's take a look at an example, right? Again, here's my suggested approach, right? First, find that scene, 1 to 2 pages. Second, write out what the message is. Third, fourth, etc. And then my answers are over here on the right, right? So in Watchmen, I decided to use 2 scenes from the end of the book, right? The first one is here in this, when Dr. Manhattan has his final words to Adrian Veidt before he disappears. If you look over these panels, right, Adrian Veidt has basically fabricated a story about an alien coming from another dimension in an effort to kind of unite the United States and the USSR, right, to make sure that they don't launch their nuclear missiles at one another. And he asks Dr. Manhattan, I did the right thing, didn't I? It all worked out in the end. Dr. Manhattan says, in the end, nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. And says, John, wait, what do you mean by, but John disappears? Okay. So I selected that scene because I knew it has a message, right? And then number 2, what is that message, right? Alan Moore wants readers to understand that everything repeats itself and that life is a cycle, i.e., or in other words, history repeats itself. Number 3 is, what devices do I see here, right? I see bolded words in the voice bubbles to emphasize key ideas and words. I see moment-to-moment transition, right? Here's John stepping into the globe. John is now all the way in the globe. Adrian raises his hand, and then the next moment, John is gone, and Adrian's hand goes down. And that moment-to-moment scene transition is used to show how quickly the conversation ends. And there's the use of a rhetorical question, right? When Adrian Veitz asks, I did the right thing, didn't I? He thinks the answer to that question is John saying, yes, right? You did the right thing. You stopped nuclear war. But that's not the case in this scene. Okay, and then number 4, what is the clear statement kind of explaining all that, right? So Alan Moore uses bolded words in voice bubbles, moment-to-moment transitions, and a rhetorical question to convey to his readers that everything repeats itself and that life is a cycle. Okay, it's very similar to our discussion from before, right? You identify the devices, etc., and then in the end, you have a summary statement of how they all kind of work together. Okay, so that's the first scene that I got from the end of the book. The other scene from the end of the book that I'm using with it is this scene here. These are 2 newspaper workers. The guy in the suspenders is the boss, and the guy in the t-shirt is his employee. So my answers to those 4 parts, right? I want to use the last few panels of the comic where Seymour, the guy in the t-shirt, shows that Dr. Manhattan is right about history repeating itself. The message, that's coming across, right? The lesson is that everything will happen again. History repeats itself. And then the devices that I see here and how they're all working, right? I see bolded words in the voice bubbles to show emphasis on important words, moment-to-moment transitions to capture important actions during the discussion, right? The boss's clear distaste for the Russians is there, and the ketchup falling on Seymour's shirt is also really important. And is shown in that moment-to-moment transition. Symbolism of Seymour's shirt and its connection to the comedian's pin from the start of the comic. And then aspect-to-aspect transitions in panels 6 to 7. Notice it's the exact same moment, but like kind of zoomed in. And then the use of allusion to the theme of John Cole's quote, which is here at the end, right? That idea that the world will change, but you can't stop the natural forces of death or human nature, right? Everything will still continue to happen. And then that one summarizing statement. Alan Moore uses bolded words in voice bubbles, moment-to-moment and aspect-to-aspect transitions, symbolism, and allusion to reinforce the message from the scene between Dr. Manhattan and Adrian Veidt. History repeats itself, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. Okay. So now that I have all 3 of those charts filled in, right, after I've completed all 3 charts, I'm ready to actually write up my analysis essay. Each of these discussions serves as a body paragraph for my essay. And you're going to recycle your answers from each body paragraph or their discussions here, right? Adding a description of each scene and quotes where necessary. To make that easier for you, I've crafted a template which I will show you here. Right, the template looks like this, right? If you look at the top, you would type your name over top of where it says name, put in the period number, put in the date, analysis, common task, essay 4, and it says insert your text title. So if you're working with blankets, it would be blankets. If you're doing Persepolis, put in Persepolis, etc. Please note that the title is italicized, right? You always italicize the name of books. Then the next part of the instruction. It says, write a 3 to 5 sentence introduction to your text, right? Pretending that the reader of your essay has never heard of it. Include information like the author's name, the title of the comic, and a brief 3 to 5 sentence summary of the story to the right of the blue arrow, and then delete these directions, including the blue arrow, right? You don't want to leave any of this behind, right? So you type all that stuff here on the right and then delete the directions. Then if you move down to the first by paragraph, right, it says, I start you off, right? One important scene from the start of the comic is when, and then insert your description of that first scene that we discussed. Again, pretend like the person who's reading your essay can't see the book in front of them. So you would describe, who are the characters? What are the characters doing? What are they talking about? What is going on? Then it says insert your answer to the last question from our discussion first, because that's your summary statement, and then recycle all your other answers in order to make that in an order that makes sense to flesh out the rest of your body paragraph. Repeat the same process for the second discussion for your second body paragraph, right? I already gave you the transition. Another important scene from a later part of the text is when. And then your last body paragraph is from your selected scene, right? Really important from the end of the text is fill in those blanks, following the same procedures that you used from above. Your conclusion should be pretty simple, right? Just this one sentence or two, and you can add more if you'd like. In conclusion, insert the author's name, insert the text is important because it contains messages about, and then talk about whatever messages you saw in these three body paragraphs, right? Or through your three discussions. If you get completely lost, I've made a sample for you to look at. If you click on this hyperlink, right, it uses my examples from Watchmen. A quick note, right? I left my recycled answers and inserted text in blue here, right? And I used red to show where I needed to add in context or like quotes to flesh out my analysis. But when you're done, you would make sure that all of your text is completely in black. Okay, it shouldn't be all kind of colored this way. So when you get a chance, right, I would suggest maybe just read through my essay about my discussion points. I will point out that when you get to the second body paragraph, I don't have a scene there. I just need to save some time. So I just kind of left that blank. But I think you get the idea of how to fill in blanks, right? And you can just see the way that I did it. Try to imitate that same sort of structure. If you have questions, please let me know, right? Obviously, you're watching this video. You're not watching this, or you're not in class live, but you could always send me an email, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. This was a check-in I did during class. I do have a couple more quick announcements, right? First, I have some sad news. I'm taking leave for the remainder of the year, so I will no longer be your teacher. I will provide the sub with slides and resources, and you will still get to read the same great comics. I will have limited access to email, but if you do have questions or you just want to talk about comics, please feel free to email me using the .net email address. Thank you for watching this video, right? Your action steps are first to find that scene, submit your last discussion notes after you filled in let me do this. After you have filled in this part down here, right? You've selected your scene, you've done your analysis, you've answered those 4 questions, right? Turn that in. That's due before the start of class on April 9th. And then immediately start working on your common task analysis essay. That is due before midnight on April 15th. As a reminder, there are academic check-in times and student support. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to reading your work.